Hello, Taurus. So this is such a Taurus thing. And as you know, if you've seen this, I'm a Taurus rising. I love the sweater, so I'll probably end up wearing it like the whole for everything, but like, look how cute. I know you'll like it. All the ways. And even like, you could zip it up from the bottom, you know? Ooh. I just thought you would like, Okay. This month I have a question for everybody. I wrote them down a few weeks ago. I intuitively go about how I go about anything and learning for the most part, unless like I want to go deeper into something. I'll usually just like dive in or set time aside to do those things. Why am I saying that to you? Maybe that's something that you need to do for yourself this month, and because it can be a busy month depending on where you're at in life and how you choose to, like, how you live in terms of and what your traditions are, but in terms of like your holiday season and family or whatever else that could be involved this month. And for those of you who have any hardships during this time, let's just say I understand what that can be like, and I'm very sorry. But more than that, like, don't be afraid to reach out to the people that you feel so connected to. Leave a comment here, DM me on my Instagram. I just heard like a few people relay that, and I just honestly think it's important to acknowledge because I've been there. And sometimes it still happens, like our patterns, our life, it's a everyone's is more complex, or everyone's is so complex in a different way. And that's how I feel about birth charts as well. And yes, there's a lot of Sagittarius fire, but there's also Capricorn coming in quickly, and Mars. But we'll get all into that into the second part, which will be in a link below on Patreon. It's like a second part and extended where we go through and look at the cards and go through it much deeper. And all information to work with me one-on-one is also below, as well as my email and contact. So that's another way to get in touch. And the High Priestess comes out first, and I think that's cool because, and it relates to the question of like, what's life? What's your purpose? And what's your relationship with fluidity? That word fluidity is not something you would put next to how to describe Taurus. However, especially for Taurus suns and risings, I think Taurus moons have a easier relationship, or maybe a more defined relationship with that word, because there is such grace in a Taurus moon. There is lots of compassion, but there's a deeper sense of, when you learn something, you're so much more fluid with yourself, and that's something I admire in a Taurus moon. But this one's more for the Taurus sun or rising at this moment. But then if you are a Taurus moon, take it for what you will. You may be wanting to contemplate all of these things, all these widespread questions or thoughts that you feel that's important right now. Remember that Sagittarius season is also a ride too. So if you're questioning these things and you feel like being in this space, don't be afraid to still say yes to that external event. You will find that this is going to become more of what your life is like. You like to be home for sure. You're a sign that is being known for being a homebody. However, that fluidity, I think that came up today, is going to be more aggressive this month. I would say this is a great word. This is a great read for aggressive. And you may feel like angst or and realize the way you may be communicating, and realize that, okay, how do I get this out in a way that isn't gonna like come bite me in the ass or hurt me? Not that I think you're in that place, because that doesn't feel like right for you right now, but it's more like there's something that's like fighting its way out of you, itching its way out of you, that has to do with, and I think when when things move into Capricorn for sure, but it has to do with like how you relate to what, again, keeps you inside instead of saying yes to going out. If you can't really spend a lot of money, then just keep it to a minimum. Like, instead of going for dinner, just go for drinks, like whatever. Or if you don't want to go the whole time, just commit to one aspect of the situation, so that you're not overly committing yourself to a point where you feel taken from. You acknowledge that you don't know, you may not know or understand this feeling that you're feeling or that you're having in this time right away. It may take a little bit longer. It may take, throughout the course of the season. So the High Priestess in the beginning next to the Page of Swords, I'm going to go back to that first row before I get back to the second row, is that I think it's more of just like having more fluidity with being external, being around people. Again, not just saying yes to things because you think you should, but just noticing when you want to be more social, being not so rigid in your plans, like allowing yourself to either make or break plans this month would be a really important thing, especially for your health too. Because you, in the long run, you don't want to be like fighting yourself or having any like miscommunications with people over stupid shit. And if it's people that are holding you to something and you feel like, and after you commit, you decide that like, okay, maybe this isn't the best thing for me to do right now, but you don't notice until a week before, a few days before. And if they're trying to make you feel guilty or at all like you shouldn't be doing those things that are what's best for you, just notice like what other ties that relationship holds. Notice how long you feel that way. Notice what that brings up. But what I really do think it's going to bring you to is a sense of understanding that where you've been held back. And what I mean by that is like emotionally and monetarily are very much linked together. You realize that the structure and the foundation that you've been building and you've been working so hard isn't really right for you. And does that mean you have to start all over? No. It's just being, again, that having like, what is fluidity? What is the purpose like of this? Or what is, what's life right now? Like, how do you want to maybe change it up a little? Not be just like, oh, that's Taurus, that's just what they do. Like, that's okay if people think that, for sure. And yeah, that can be a part of your identity, but it doesn't have to stay that way. And maybe you want to make a change, and that's where you decide to put all this hard earned, worked energy. And we can also talk about that another time, where you don't always have to you're not like, God's not asking you, the universe is not asking you to earn something. Yes, they want you to like, they want you to be able to do and fend and survive and thrive and live, and that's something that you know how to do. So if there's anything or anyone feeling like if your perception is that they're taking from you, it's not necessarily that they're doing it on purpose or that they're trying to do it, but if it's your perception that you feel like this person or this situation is taking from you, then it's most likely that you're working hard to stay in something that isn't serving or at all adding to what you've been building. And you're realizing that none of that has actually stayed in place. Nothing that I've put this kind of energy into has actually stayed solid. So you're realizing where it may be a good time to renegotiate or opt out of something and change course now before you go even deeper. You don't have to, it's not about you not following through. This is about Like, would you rather follow through on something that you're not at all that you're just not, that you know isn't for you anymore, just to finish and to prove to yourself, which is a very, again, earthly thing to do, and that's why it would be harder to contemplate this next month. It might be best to decide towards the end of the month when you have a clearer view. Or would you rather put the work in changing things now or shifting things now, where you can be excited and let this month be more of excitement instead of, I'll just accept it. You know, that's something like Taurus puts everything into, like all the details, every like these thoughts, like these extensive thoughts that go into everything that you do. And you're just like, oh man, but what if it, like, here's a perspective. What if it actually gave you more energy to change course? That's a big cue. That's in human design. That's something they say, but that's also something that's just very real that I talk about a lot with people. If something's giving you more energy and you're deciding, and so to do that, that's your cue. If something is taking from your energy or you feel exhausted, it's most likely not for you. And it's not because you can't handle it. It's not because you're not good enough. It's nothing to do with that. It's just like, you would thrive if you went this way. Not everything has to be hard. You know, the earth signs like love to, like each sign, actually each element, each sign has an issue with like this, like a certain thing needing to be hard. We all have certain parts of ourselves that we've had things and made things harder for ourselves in many ways. And for you guys, it's physically. Like, why do you need to make this harder for yourself than it already is? What if you've already accomplished what you are setting out to do? You know, if you look at it more of like a metaphoric way, not just this physical paper, like, you know, going the very normal route. Maybe it's shifting. And again, if you let yourself, which we'll get more into the second part, if you let yourself explore that this month, which is a big topic in Capricorn's reading, especially in just your own mind and giving yourself kind of a separate world until you're ready to like really sit with it or talk about it and make it something actually real, I want you to notice how you feel, that kind of energy you get, without going from like, okay, if I do this, I have to work, I have to get out of this, so this is gonna be a struggle. Like, what if you just focused on this without all of the work you have to do? Because sometimes when you do that, everything kind of just lets go and fall, like everything, just like when things fall into place, things can fall out of place with the same fluidity, with the same grace. So that's what I'm going to emphasize for you this month, Taurus. And we're into the second part now. Everything is below. If you have any issues this holiday, again, just don't be afraid to reach out to people if it's not the best time for you. Reach out to, let yourself be vulnerable. Find some kind of solace and comfort. And maybe say yes to something you didn't think you would. All right. We will see you next month.